So who within the organisation is actually in the driver's seat? So I want to talk about that question today from our context as Super Retail Group. And I want to talk about it in terms of, a little bit of history of retail. So look back a bit to be able to look forwards. And then look at, okay, so what are our customer characteristics at the moment? What are the things that are really shaping our understanding of what their experience actually is? And then look at, okay, well, what does that mean for us about delivering on that expectation? But before we do that, I am going to talk a little bit about the group. In terms of who we are. We are a specialty retailer. Our aim is to inspire you to live your passion. I mean, you might ask, well, what is common between Supercheap Auto and BCF and the other brands we have here? We've got Rebel. What is the common thing? It's about people's leisure time. Our aim is very much to be able to help people enjoy their leisure time, live their passion. We're as I said, a specialist retail. We have 3 divisions now, auto and commercial. And auto was our roots, Supercheap Auto. We've got, that operates across Australia and New Zealand. The leisure division, which grew up as BCF and acquired Ray's Outdoors, now into New Zealand as well with Fishing Camping Outdoors, FCO. And our latest acquisition, which was late 2011, was Rebel and Amart. That we're now in the process of actually rolling, particularly the Amart stores out across Australia, and then actually late last year we acquired Workout World. So people an organisation or a sales team that actually focus on high-end exercise equipment with a customer base that is largely more gym and commercial, and individuals who are really interested in the high-end exercise equipment. We're structured very intentionally with three retail divisions, actually looking after the retail operations, the merchandising and marketing of that brand. So operate the stores, operate the online channel, making sure that the customer experience is actually defined properly in line with that brand proposition. But supporting that, we then look to really achieve some economies of scale across our business. In total, we're turning out over about 2.2 billion this year. And our aim is to be able to leverage that scale across the brands to be able to deliver a better cost and value proposition actually to our customers. So we have a single supply chain, group logistics organisation, single finance, single HR. We have a group marketing team, IS and finance. So we operate across all the brands. We have over 600 stores now across the 3 companies. And so if you look at the question that's being asked, we have quite a diversity of people involved in that customer experience or defining what that customer experience actually is. So within the brands, go into a Rebel store, it is actually very different from the experience you get in a BCF store. So we need to make sure that our online experience actually is differentiated in a similar kind of way. That the people that and we have a single customer database for the group as a whole. So we have basically this one customer is then a member of multiple of our loyalty programs. So we have quite a clear picture about how our most loyal customers are actually shopping across the brands, and there's not that much cross-shopping going between them. So that says we've got different demographics, different propositions. We need to deliver a different experience. So each of the brands controls that. We have group marketing and we have IS. I'm going to talk a bit about how we look to balance those different pressures to be able to deliver the right kind of customer experience. But first I do want to talk a bit about history. This is from a recent book, The New Rules of Retail, that actually looks at how retail has actually developed really since about 1850 onwards, and that divides it really up into 3 key waves. The first wave, up to about 1950, was where the control actually sat with manufacturers and retailers due to limited competition. So there wasn't a broad range of products actually available. There was kind of a minimum uneven level of products and services that were available to customers, partly because of difficulty with transportation. And the consumer had to accept basically what was available to them. And so you started to see local department stores, freestanding department stores actually develop. In the second wave, really from 1950 to 1980, it became very much marketing driven. That the manufacturers and transportation both made it much, much easier to get a much broader range of products out to retailers wherever they might be. So you saw the real marketing giants actually growing at that time, companies like Unilever, who developed a lot of very strong brands. And it became very important as you got later into this wave that as retailers' control of the shelf space became very dominant, the brand companies needed to be able to figure out how do we get our message out to the customer so that they will come into a store and actually choose our brand. Because retailers, and the stories are legion in the industry around how different large retailers actually control that shelf space. And then the third wave, and that this in some ways predated the internet in terms of the way these guys actually look at this history. But it was looking at the increasing fragmentation of channels, the rise of specialty retailers, development of malls actually happening and really starting to increase the customer choice. And then the internet came along and just exploded that. That the customer now really has that ultimate ability to choose what products I want and how I want to buy them and how I want to learn about them. They really do control that. Key things in there, I think, are also that it's that shift from product and service to experience. And I think like a lot of people, a lot of organisations, that's something that we actually struggle with, is how do you deliver an experience that is attractive to a customer in a store? So we're starting to do some things, and so Supercheap Auto has just now rolling out a new store format that looks at customer occasions. So what are all the things I need to do when I'm washing my car? Previously, our stores were very much laid out along the lines of our product categories. So you might have the car shampoos and those kinds of things in one part of a store and the buckets in another part of the store because they were about storage, not about car care. We're now moving those so that we're really trying to focus our offer in store and the experience in store of having all those things for that customer occasion in one place. We are seeing some very good lifts in sales as a result of actually doing that. The other thing that really started to come through was that the customer saying it's new, I want new, and I want it now. So that expectation of when I want service, when I want it, and the way that I want it. So look, coming back to then the question that really asked at the beginning was, so who does actually control or define that customer experience? And the reality is the customer is. That as an organisation, if we're foolish enough to actually think that we know what that experience is, if we know what that experience is actually for that customer, we're going to get it wrong. We look at really the customer as really, in really, for me, these four things. So the customer really is time poor. I mean, if you think about, thank you very much for spending your valuable time here today, by the way. But getting that time out to be able to do these kinds of things is increasingly difficult. Family demands, just the range of things that we do. I know my wife actually spends a lot of her time running my kids around doing things because we live in an area where public transport's not particularly good, so that when she needs to, when she actually wants to shop, she actually wants to do things, she doesn't want to spend a lot of time doing it, particularly around things that are necessities. So time poor, I think, is a critical thing. Media rich, we have so many choices. If you look at the range of information that's actually available on the internet, the range of product that are available to people, how the hell do you choose between the smartphones that are out there now? I mean, what is it about buying, or even you take it down to the extent of buying shampoo? You look at the number of variants that are actually available to you. Is it organic, or is it low cost? Is it low value? What are the characteristics that you as a customer are actually going to use to make your decision? So they have so much media to be able to help them make the decision. And that's why I think why we see so much of the third aspect coming through, that influenced by friends, whether it's community, whether it's social network, whether it's those the social graph that the individual develops over time according to either their professional linkages, their professional network on LinkedIn, or their family on Facebook. So much more now people are making their decisions based on what are their friends actually done in a similar kind of circumstance. And attention is priceless. When you look at the choices that people have, to me the real scarcity in retail now is giving you time to pay attention to your messages. How do we get people to a situation where they actually want to listen to what we're saying, that they hear our marketing, they hear our messages, and that we're actually giving them that ability to actually engage with what we do, because it's increasingly difficult to get that cut through. I was interested in listening to one of the keynotes this morning talking about how TV marketing was still the most effective. It's not for us. We're finding that our marketing, when we can target it very specifically, is much more effective in terms of getting customers into store, getting customers to actually shop online, than the traditional kind of mass media. So what does that mean for us? So marketing and IS collaborate. This is always an interesting one. Again, the data that JP was talking about this morning, my role is primarily about keeping the business running every day. Much as I'd like to think, okay, we do innovation and we do this other cool stuff with tech, and we got lots of exciting things to do, 80% of what I do every day is just keep the stores trading, keep the DC running, keep the website up so the customer's getting that experience with them. Whereas marketing's thinking is constantly about that customer experience, that messaging to them. Their whole motivation and their reward system is actually driven quite differently from mine. And then you think about our brand marketing teams and our retail operations teams. Retail ops in your store is about making that store look perfect every day. So when the customer comes in, they can find the product that they want. The messaging, the point of sale messaging is clear and easy to read. So they're about detail. I mean, there's the old cliche, retail is detail. And it's never truer, because when you go into a store where the team's actually spruiked the store well, the products are lined up, it's just quite a different experience from a poorly kept, poorly cleaned store. So within just our organisation, we've got such different drivers in terms of performance. But so why should we collaborate? One of the key things that we're really working hard on is this whole thing around customer insight. Trying to make sure that we have that single, coherent, consistent picture of our customers with the data that they want to share with us. And increasingly, people's expectation is, once I've told you something, I'm expecting you to look after me differently because you know that fact about me. So once we know something, it becomes making sure that information is available across all the channels. So that insight is actually usable and actionable and helps us add value to that customer experience. And we can't do that by actually thinking about the different objectives that we have. We have to think about that customer's expectation. Second key area is around that customer engagement. So once we've got that information, how do we use that to build that linkage? Again, the speaker this morning talking about that affection for the brand. Right, so that somebody actually becomes that promoter for our brand, our products, the experience, the fact that we're helping them actually live their passion. Some things that we really need to think about, and how do we use that information? How do we build that engagement? Relevant products, services, and experiences. The fundamentals don't go away. We've still got to deliver things that people want. But we need to think about it in that different context around experiences. Right, how are they going to use the products we actually gave to them? There was one I loved, story I loved, sitting next to a guy that ran a web development shop, and he went into BCF, one of our stores, and he wanted to take his son fishing. His son, I think, was about 8 at the time. And he went in there, and he's a high net worth individual. He likes his toys. And so he was looking at the high-end reels, the $150, $200 reels, and the very expensive rods, carbon fibre. And he was playing with those. And a team member came up and just asked that simple question, well, what do you want to do with it? Well, I want to take my son fishing. So the team member actually took him and showed him the starter kits for fishing. Right, $20. And sold him one. And this guy on the plane actually was telling me he never went fishing with his son. But he spent, and he hated to think how much he's actually spent with BCF after that, because he knew he could actually trust the advice he was getting from the team in store. So that experience for him really shaped him to become that advocate for our brand. And again, that's about that team member, that service and the focus on that. And then finally, the multi-channel customer experience, the omni-channel, whatever the words are that we want to use around it. But really making sure that we're able to deliver that coherent and consistent experience, whatever touch point the customer's actually using to get in touch with us. So this diagram now is a couple of years old, and it really has shaped a lot of the way that we are looking at our customer journey, how they actually interact with us, and how we over time look to really reinforce how that customer is actually dealing with us. So actually looking really on the left-hand side of the diagram, that stimulant for the idea. So thinking about how do we influence them to think about us, to think about our products, to think about our services before they actually come into the shop. How do we help them actually find information? How do we help them find those personal recommendations? And how do we use both traditional media and electronic direct mail to actually get those messages out to them that make them think about, oh, this is something that I want to do. And for us, it's really trying to, again, understand that how do we help people live their passion? What is important to somebody who's out there camping, to somebody who's actually out there competing in a sport at the top level and actually wants the best equipment from Rebel to be able to do that, or the inevitable soccer mum actually going into Amart to buy her kids the footy boots at the beginning of the season. How do we get the right messaging for all those different customers out before they make that decision to go purchase? And then the different channels, they go to store or research online further, or known site, buy online. So they're just coming to us because they know who we are and that we give that offer. And then going online, again, whether it's a PC or a smartphone or a tablet, we have to make sure there's a consistent experience. One of the things we've struggled with as an organisation is really, should we have apps out there? And largely we don't. We're trialling a couple in Rebel at the moment, but all our websites are mobile enabled. So if you go to supercheapauto.com.au, you will actually get a mobile experience on your phone. If you go to it on a tablet, whatever tablet it is, you'll be able to see the website and get a good customer experience. Because we can't, there are still, I think, some quite significant limitations around apps. I mean, if you're searching on your phone, and again, the research that we've looked at says the most common thing customers do on their mobile devices is search for store locations or search for product information. And if that's what you're searching for, we can't currently link to an app from a web search, but you can link to a mobile-enabled website. So we can continue to deliver that consistent experience. So once the customer's decided to buy for us, then what are their options that they actually have available to them to get the product into their hands? So thinking about buy in store, take home, the traditional model, the buy from store delivered to home, or buy online and delivered. Thinking about whichever one they deal with, whether it's online experience, whether it's talking to our contact centre, whether it's coming into a store, is the same information about that customer available at all those touch points, and very much our focus has been on achieving that for that purchase channel. And then the payment methods, with the massive fragmentation that's starting to happen around choices around there. Should we be offering PayPal in store? Those types of questions. And then finally, what's the post-purchase experience? Right, what are they tweeting? What are they sharing on Facebook? What kind of other experiences are they actually sharing? And really trying to understand that, are they being a promoter of our brand? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And then feeding back through that loyalty loop around data management and analytics, making sure that we're using all that data that's actually available to us in the best way possible, and making sure that we're only sending relevant communications to people. We've been tracking return on marketing investment for about the last 4 years now. and that we're seeing now some very, very significant returns from the EDMs that we actually generate when we're able to target them quite precisely. And we've run some campaigns now that have ranged from 30 customers, so a specific EDM just to 30 customers, up to one where we were targeting just on 1 million customers. And so we're doing quite a few experiments with, a lot of experiments at the moment with that electronic channel about how we can deliver things best to the team. So what are we to do? So in terms of marketing, in terms of IT, in terms of store operations, actually working together. One of my personal bugbears is thinking about internal customers. One of the things about delivering IT services is that and being the CIO for the group, that it isn't a case of we must deliver what our internal customers are asking for. My role is to make sure that strategically, that tactically, operationally, we're actually delivering the best outcome for our organisation, for our customers. And that means I can say no. In a lot of cases, when you're thinking about your customer, it's not something you want to say to your customer. In my role, I have to say no at times. So what we try to do is really focus our teams, and whether they're marketing or whether they're finance or whether they're group logistics, we'd really try to focus our teams on our customers, right? The people that come into our stores, the people that deal with our websites. And so there's one phrase that's used quite frequently internally. If you're not serving a customer, you're serving someone who is. So we're really trying to keep that focus on who is really important to our organisation, to make sure that we are actually working together, and I say become friends. Right. This isn't about a competition between marketing and IT or retail ops for who's getting the most capital this year. Right. This is about what's best for our organisation, what's best for us as a leadership team, as an organisational team delivering to the customers. And we've got to recognise that the people we work alongside every day, we can't let those kind of silo barriers build. We've got to recognise that this is about our customers expect us to deliver this together, not as a fragmented exercise where the stores are doing something different from our marketing propositions. And collaborate on common processes. We differentiate very strongly between processes that operate across channels, so processes that are used in multiple channels. So for example, our delivery mechanisms for online are exactly the same as delivery mechanisms from store. Same process, same suppliers, same systems underlying it. And we do that very intentionally so that we can actually manage that experience as effectively as we can. But what the customer sees through the channel systems is where we strongly differentiate. My marketing GM, a guy named Kevin McCauley, talks about our website now being the lipstick on the pig. That we do all our heavy lifting in our core systems. So all our customer information, significant amount of our pricing, significant amount, most of it now of our promotional work is done in the core systems, not on the website. The website is focused increasingly on customer experience. Right? And so the marketing team are really looking very, very carefully at, okay, well, how do we do A/B testing? How do we make sure that we're getting the best outcome for our customers? How are we tracking the path through our website? And for us, again, around the common processes, one of the things that becoming very apparent, that we're getting great information about our customer behaviours on our websites, but we're almost blind about our customer behaviour in stores. That we don't have anything like the same ability to understand how people are using our stores, how friendly they're finding them. Without actually going and asking them, we cannot collect the right amount of data. So we're starting to experiment with some processes. I was listening to Westpac talking about iBeacon earlier. How do we actually get people to opt in into a service so that they're happy to be identified when they actually come into our store, or they're happy to be tracked on their way through our store in a way that they don't feel is intruding on their privacy? Because we need that information to be able to understand that experiment. And again, that comes back to, for us, across the group, those common processes. because that tracking is irrespective of the brand of our stores. Whether it's a BCF or a Workout World or a Supercheap Auto, we still want to know about the customer journey through the store. Common infrastructure, common process. It's not a differentiator in the customer experience. Where we do again differentiate is those channel systems, the things that are specific. So we've just releasing some tablet-based apps into the Supercheap Auto stores, which help you determine the oil you should have for your car. Rebel Sport have some tablet-based apps that are connected to a pressure sensor that actually help you choose the right shoes for you. So we're using that knowledge, but it's a very specific channel system. It's not something that's common, and so the brands are very much doing themselves. But the bottom line really has to be that common outcome that we've got of making sure that we really are delivering those better results for the group overall. And that's around both our financial returns, but also about how well we're helping our customers actually achieve that strategic goal that we have about helping people live their passion. And there's a whole new set of information there we're trying to understand. How do we measure that? How do we understand when we're being successful with what is very much a stretch target for us? And so just wanted to say thank you all for listening. Brad.
Anyone got a question they'd like to put Alan at this time? If you don't, I will, because I'm not letting you out of here early. The alignment of IT and marketing, it's something that a lot of organisations struggle with because the two departments have not technically or typically spoken together and quite often don't even have the same language when describing what it is that they're looking for. How have you actually gone about the cultural change of being able to bring those two groups together?
I think I'm very lucky to work with a GM of marketing who's actually quite sensitive to some of the problems that we face. And so that actually has given us a pretty good platform to be able to really focus on the things that we need to succeed in and to allow the differences between the two different departments where they become important. Marketing basically saying, okay, yep, we've got this great idea, we want it yesterday, but why haven't you delivered it? Whilst we try to be agile, we just cannot deliver it as fast as their expectations. So Kevin very much mitigates a number of those kinds of things. And so we are working very much with a collaborative and joint plan around how we actually go about developing those kind of marketing initiatives. Right. So we've got time to be able to deliver to what they're trying to do.
Okay, good.
Just on the same point about the collaboration between marketing and IT, we see a lot of reports from very respected consultants about how the CMO will be having a bigger chunk of the IT spend. So I'm wondering from a CIO's perspective, sometimes the difference between what we see in those and reality is different. Just wondering on your view, particularly from a retail perspective, do you see you sitting down and negotiating the budget with your CMO and him having a big chunk of that in next year or the year after?
I mean, to be honest, I actually don't care where the money sits. The thing for me is about achieving the outcome for the organisation. And there are things that we as IS, we are just not capable of doing. We don't have the culture. There are things, so I mean, some examples, I mean, we use quite a lot of external information services now that the different business units have gone out and contracted, but they have used our standard integration approach. So we're able to bring that information in a very coherent way so we can deliver a very effective customer experience based on that. I mean, we don't necessarily, in a lot of cases, don't understand the information that the marketing team are wanting or the retail team are particularly wanting. And so it's completely appropriate, I think, that they have that resource when they are the best team to do it. And so in the sense of that, what we're seeing is our spend on what we classify as IT is actually increasing over time. I'm not seeing my budget go down as a result of that increasing spend by other parts of the organisation. And I think that if you end up in a zero-sum game where your core IT is being cut to fund stuff that marketing's want to do, I'd be worried about that. because we've still got to keep the business running. Fundamental thing. So I think the simple thing is, it's about what are our shared outcomes, and being very clear as that organisational leadership team, which is the right team to actually deliver that outcome.
So we've definitely got time for another couple of questions, because afternoon tea won't be ready yet anyway. So do we have another question? Is anyone else wanting to put their hand up? See someone scratching their head. I've got a nose rub at the back. Who actually have a question? Well, I'm going back to it as well.
Okay.
Customer experience is something you talked about as being a high priority for you. I'm just curious to know, how do you benchmark yourselves? Do you look to other organisations and seek to emulate or exceed, or do you have some internal benchmark that you're trying to reach when it comes to customer experience online?
I'll take the last bit of that question first. Customer experience is any touch point. It isn't just online. Sure. The thing that we're trying to do is look at that experience. We are very much have traditionally been a product-led company. We buy a product, we put it on shelves, people buy it. So our merchants and our retailers are pretty good at what they do, because you watch our development as a business over the last 25 years or so. We've been very successful with that product-driven approach. Our challenge right now, though, is we've got to shift that focus to that customer centricity. And so we look at organisations like Nordstrom, like Zappos, really trying to understand those people that are really, you take Nordstrom as a fairly traditional American department store, but they are one of the few that are continuing to grow and continuing to be very profitable. The stories about customer service, delivering that customer experience from Nordstrom are really legion. I was reading one a couple of days ago. This guy went into a Nordstrom store, asked for a product, they didn't have it. The team member behind the counter said, look, are you going to be around for a little while? And he said, yeah, I'll be here for about 45 minutes. We'll come back at that and we'll see what we can do. When the customer came back, the team member had gone, bought the product from another store, had gift wrapped it for them and sold it to them at exactly the same price that they paid for it in the other retailer. Now, how many retailers do you know that would actually go to that extent to go and buy something from another retailer to satisfy that customer's need? And it's those kind of stories. The story that I talked before about BCF, it's often those kinds of things that we actually look at, the kind of experience that we want to deliver to get that emotional engagement from our team to be able to deliver, to change to that customer centricity away from the product focus that we've actually had. We are looking at NPS, at the Net Promoter Score, to really try to understand how do we put some metrics around it, how do we monitor improvements over time. But that's a very new field for us at the moment. We're only really doing that in our sport brands. Mm-hmm.
Do we have another question? At the front, Ben, if you could come down, we'll just bring the microphone down so the people streaming can hear you.
Just a question about customer experience and the various brands that you've had and best practice. So you've obviously bought some other companies over the years, and you've got lots of brands, and one brand will have best practice. How do you go about sharing those best practices amongst the brands, given that potentially you've got different systems and processes, and if something works really well in Rebel, how quickly and easily can you facilitate moving that to one of your other brands?
Okay, I think one of the things to recognise is we have one platform. We have one instance of SAP, we have one CRM that is common across all the brands. So that we launched probably a couple of years ago now, Supercheap Club Plus Club, and there's a number of propositions in them. One that we do there is the receiptless warranty. So that as a customer of Supercheap Auto, if you're a Club Plus member, you buy something, it breaks, you can bring it back without the receipt. Because we've got your information there on file as to when you purchased it. We've got all the information about what the manufacturer's warranty is, but then it's up to the team member how to serve you. And we rolled that into the other brands that wanted to make that offer within a few weeks of it being launched from Supercheap. Same platform, same functionality. It's just being delivered through only to those stores or only for those customers, or obviously online or in the contact centre. But it's that basic principle. So one of the things we bought sport, we put them on the group platform. The first thing that we've really been doing every time we've bought a company is move them onto a group platform. So we get those economies of scale. We get the ability to develop once and then implement and bolster the brand proposition or the customer experience, whatever we're trying to target. We do differentiate. So some stores, some brands have a different expectation around customer experience. When it's important to the customer experience, then we do it just for that store. But again, it's on that common platform. And if it becomes useful somewhere else, then we can still roll it out. But it's very much one of our principles, economies of scale and skill, by having that group platform.
Right. I think I saw another hand go up in the middle. If we can grab the microphone back and bring it across. So I think they're being a bit unkind in calling it a pig.
Sorry,
well, the description of the pig with lipstick, I think, sounds a bit unkind now. Please go ahead, sir.
It's just a related question. How long do you give yourself that IT integration process post-acquisition or merger?
Depends on the company. The Rebel was easily was by far our largest acquisition. It was when we acquired it, it was turning over 600 million. And our aim in the integration there was not to screw up the business. And so it was about 18 months to integrate them. Prior to that, when we bought Raise Outdoors, which was about a $150 million business, we delivered that in under 3 months. And both ended up with we're moving on to the group platform, and both we replaced pretty much all the systems that were in use by those other businesses. So much smaller business in Raise, but much closer to our processes. Sport, because much bigger apparel and fashion offer. Some quite different processes around how you do the seasonality for sports gear or for the kind of fashion sports clothing that we actually sell through Rebel. So again, the first thought is let's not screw up the business, but let's get them onto the platform so we can start taking advantage of those capabilities. As a $600 million business, they could afford much less in terms of investment, in terms of functionality, than we can at a group level in terms of with $2 billion in turnover to really spread that cost over.
All right.
There's another question there.
Do we have another one? We'll quickly, and then we'll go to our...
With technology innovation, do you test new technologies in particular brands or across the group of brands?
Not as much as we'd like. It's one of the things that we're trying to develop is that ability to experiment effectively, to be able to... you hear a lot about online companies being able to do A/B testing. So we'll put a different experience for the same function up live at the same time. We have some capability to do that with our websites, and we do that. But what we're experimenting with at the moment is actually being able to do A/B testing on our team members in stores as well. So that we can actually look at, okay, well, how do we improve the productivity of the team? How do we improve the engagement of the team with the systems that we're actually using? Again, one of the points JP was making this morning in that research is our team's got to have the tools to be able to do their job properly. So we have spent quite a bit of time building what is a federated portal infrastructure that's delivering our systems into the stores. And that's now letting us vary that experience for the team members, and we can experiment and test a bit about, okay, functionally it works, it does what it's supposed to do, but is it actually fast enough? Is it easy enough to learn? And does it make the team member actually productive enough when we deliver it to them? So we've just started experimenting with that.
Right.